Right. Any particular, view on RBL Bank that you have? Okay, our other guests are also joining us, so let's welcome in our other guest as well, Rohit Srivastav, as well as Mayuresh Joshi. Sajeev, if you could just say what is the view on RBL Bank? It's not a very cheap bank. Still, why one would want to buy into this?
See, if you have got a medium to longer term outlook, this is a new bank, it's a new IPO. It could go the way of a Yes Bank. Yes Bank many years ago was also trading at these sort of levels. Yes, I know the valuations and the performance of that bank has been much better, but it outperformed and it continued to surprise the market with its up move. A few years ago when Yes was 300 and we gave targets of 500, 600, the markets weren't convinced. The stock on that is now over 1400. So I'm not saying RBL is going to do a Yes Bank, but with the momentum and the emphasis on the financial sectors, you will see some premiums in the banking sector continue. I think that this particular stock is pretty well positioned. There is obviously the potential of a downside risk with any of these banking stocks, but considering its fundamentals and the fact that it is a new listing with a lot of fresh interest, I still think this stock has a very good upside potential, especially if you're a medium to longer term investor.
Right. Rohit, what are your calls for the day?
Well, very broadly, we've been negative on, the tech sector. So I think that remains the space that will continue to be weak. And there is strength now building up again in the metals area, essentially on the back of, I think, rising commodity prices. And I think that trend also might continue for a while. So these are two divergent trends, which I think are likely to play out.
Right. Mayuresh, what will be your calls for the day?
No, largely I think, Pankaj, it has to be dependent on what kind of an earnings bottom-up approach we follow in these markets. Because largely I think the markets will be sideways till we get the clear-cut outcome of what the presidential elections will throw out. But largely again, I think where the earnings momentum looks strong, larger private retail-oriented banks, where the earnings picture has been extremely vibrant. If you're talking about select cement stocks, my own sense is that a few cement companies have posted excellent set of numbers. You've seen microfinance, small payment banks actually post reasonable set of numbers. And again, I think if one remains stock specific, I think the valuations look attractive in a few of these cases. Sporadically, I think a few of the mid caps have done well. So I think a few of these stocks can be definitely looked at. A few of the mid cap IT stocks have done well. A few textile stocks have done well. But again, I think the earnings momentum generally should be soft and tepid, and it should only be seen as a recovery post Q4.
Right. As far as earnings are concerned, what do you make of it so far, Sajeev? Earnings have been mixed, but the top 10 or top 15 large cap company except Reliance has not delivered.
Well, there was always some nervousness about the results for this quarter. The expectations are that from the December quarter onwards, we would see an uptick. I think overall there's been some disappointment. That's basically because the stock prices have run up so much, so it's hard to justify those sort of valuations unless the outperformance continues. So if you're looking at it from individual stocks and sectors, it's been mixed, as you said. It's not too bad. There could be some far worse results coming out. But the tech sector was not expected to perform. It's done that. The banking sector, apart from Axis, the NPAs seem to be under control now. And with the autos, as you mentioned, stocks like Maruti, which are trading at 6,000, if their results are even slightly offline, the stocks might be punished and there might be some selling pressure. But I don't think the concern at this moment would be too much of the results this quarter. I think the expectations now will grow in the next few months as to what the companies announce for the December quarter. If there's a disappointment there, I think you'll see a far sharper reaction in the companies that fail to deliver next year.
All right, so we got to keep that in mind, especially when it comes to earnings for investors. Let's also take a look at a few other stocks that will be in the news today. We have ICICI Pru, which is ex-dividend today. So giving a dividend of 1.75 rupees a share. Then we have Coal India. Its production figures have come out for the month of October. They were disappointing. They had a target of coal production of 51.8 million tons. What went out was 43.5 million tons. Even the offtake was much lower than anticipated. Offtake came in at 43 million tons. But there is a brokerage call on Coal India, and Coal India did manage a good day a day earlier. So we will keep a watch out on Coal India. Central Bank of India is in focus. It has approved a fundraising to the tune of 157 crore rupees through equity capital. And then we have Jubilant Life. This stock has done very well post its earnings. Its ANDA has got the nod, and this is the Rosuvastatin calcium tablets. This is a generic version of Cresta. So Jubilant Life will also be in focus.
Right. As far as some of the other names that will be in focus is concerned. So Godrej Properties is the first one. They have given out an outlook where they have said that they have sold over 60,000 square meters in a single day. This is on the launch of Greater Noida Township that they have done. It was expected to do well, but I think the numbers that are coming out are looking much better than estimates. MOIL has raised prices. They have raised prices of manganese ore by about 25 to 30%. Manganese ore worldwide seems to be in a bullish market, and that's why probably, you may see the stock reacting on the positive side irrespective of where the market is going. Dabur has done a very small acquisition. It's about $1.5 million. It's in South Africa. It's not a big acquisition, but it gives them an entry into a particular market, and that's why it could be interesting. And Lupin has received a final US FDA nod. This is for a female contraceptive drug that they have. It's a very competitive market, so it may not have an immediate near-term impact, but it tends to add about $5–10 million on a yearly basis. So that will also be particularly quite important. Some of the auto sales numbers also were declared, but the ones that were not declared, let's run through them. Anisha, which are the companies you will eye out for?
So all the two-wheeler names, we're watching for their sales numbers. For Bajaj Auto, we're expecting sales to be higher by about 9%, by about 13%, sorry. Hero MotoCorp, we're seeing their October sales higher by 6.3%. Then TVS is also due to come out with its sales numbers for October. We're seeing an uptick of about 9% in the sales. M&M Auto, we're expecting a degrowth there, but their tractors division should do well with a jump of about 20% or thereabouts. So these are the few numbers that we'll be watching for when more of the auto sales for the month of October come through.
Right. JLR, however, in US declared numbers. This is only the US retail sale numbers that we're talking about. Not that great. It was not particularly great. The run rate has been about 15–20% plus, but they did about 7% in the month of October. Jaguar continues to grow to 26% higher. Land Rover was down 23. Don't really think the mixes would be surprising for anyone, but that's also one stock that one would eye out for continuing from the auto pack. Some of the other companies that declared numbers, that's results post market hours. So MIC Electronics profitability declined to about 2.2 crores versus about 7.8. Sales was in line, and margins actually contracted from the highs of 20% to about 21. VST Industries PAT came in at 11% higher to about 35 crores. The total revenues were at 231, which was about 13% higher. So that's also a company that you would eye out for. Margins were broadly flat at about 21%. Remember, it's a cigarette maker and it's a sort of FMCG play. Majesco declared numbers, profits of 5 crores versus a very, very marginal loss last year, same time. Sales came in at 211 odd crores. Overall, there were no one-off, but we'll try and get in touch with the management because there were no signs of any such big turnaround as well. GNA Axles, we don't have the comparable numbers because it's a new listing that has happened. So that's why we've just put out the growth number from the release. Net profit up 25%, total income at about 5%, and EBITDA margins came in at about 13.3 odd %. We still have a morning guest with us. Let's before opening, let's just go back to Sajeev. Sajeev, what will be your view on Tata Motors? With the numbers that they are declaring, we saw the last month's numbers coming in from the domestic market as well, which were decent, even though they are small. How would you look at Tata Motors?
Well, it's a stock we like to accumulate again anywhere between the 500 and 530 levels. We think is a decent level to re-enter. It's got the problems with the Tatas and the mystery problem, which saw some reaction. The results, again, they're okay. They're not spectacular, but we expect them to pick up as well. And at the current valuation, I think it's a good call not just for traders, but investors also. So if you can have a 3 month to 6 month sort of time frame, I'm sure the stock will move back towards the 580, 600 levels over the next few months.
Right. I'll just come back to you, gentlemen. About 8-10 seconds remaining for markets to open. No major results today, but it's expected to be a weak opening. We already have the pre-open session behind. SGX is pointing out towards a 80-85 point decline. So a lot of levels can actually get quite moving today. As of now, none of the stocks in the Nifty are into the green. So Axis is down at 1.2%, ICICI is down 1.8%, ITC is down about 1.8%, and Infosys is flat with a negative bias. Tata Steel 2% down, 407. Remember, it was one of the top gainers. ICICI Pru, I think it's got ex-dividend as well, 308 for okay, let's look at markets as well. It's down a full 100 points. 8,525, looking in extremely weak at this point of time. And as I told you, none of the names in the Nifty are into green. All the names are into red. Tech Mahindra is the top loser. It's down 2.5%. Z Entertainment is down 1%. Tata Power is down about 1%, and Maruti is at about 5,822. Adani Ports is now the top loser. So it was earlier Tech Mahindra, now it's Adani Ports. Let's look at Hindalco as well. That's also looking in down. It's down about 2% right now. Metals yesterday did well, but today it's metals and banks which are just clearly losing out. SBI is down 2%, 5.5 rupees decline for SBI. Tech Mahindra is among the top losers. Remember, they declared numbers a few days back. After that, it did well, and now it's down. Bank of Baroda is down close to 2%, and it's not looking that good if you're a bull in the market. Tata Steel is down about 1.6%, 410. Let's look at Tata Motors. Tata Motors DVR, we just spoke about that. This is the DVR, which is down about 2%, and BHEL is also not looking that great. Overall, not that great start for the bulls right now. Again, into Nifty, there are none of the 51 stocks are into the green. All of them are into the red, with top loser being down 2%, which is Adani Ports, followed by Tata Motors DVR. Then probably a Hindalco, Bank of Baroda, SBI are also some of the other names which are losing out. So MIC Electronics is down close to 11%, 16 odd rupees, but it's a small name. That's the sense that you get. So it's a small name which is going down. MIC Electronics is down close to 11%. Let's look at VST Industries as well. That's down about 2 odd percent, 59 rupees, but nothing in terms of volume. So don't think it's having an impact. Majesco, it was a turnaround sort of a quarter, but again, you don't see any one-off in the results, and that's why it's up close to about 4.5%. Overall, not that great start for the markets.
So the breadth of the market is really poor. On the Nifty 50, all stocks are in the red. It's really a negative start, and there's a very little by way of green for the markets. Or in the pharma down 1.5%. Amongst the broader markets also, there is significant selling pressure. MIC Electronics is one that Pankaj mentioned, but Indiabulls Real Estate down 3%. Ujjas Energy was flying with gains of 5%, seeing profit taking down 2.5%. Jain Irrigation has had a good run. That one is down. And the high beta space, especially from the real estate end, is really seeing some pressure coming through. Indiabulls Real Estate down 3%, Genetech down 2.5%, GMR Infrastructure down 2.5%. We've seen the likes of HCC down 2.5%, JP Associates is down 2%, NCC is down 2%, and Federal Bank also, which are down well post its earnings, all seeing significant profit taking coming through. Very few gainers for the day today, and the list of losers far longer than the ones gaining today. But let's just mention the stocks that have moved up. Manganese ore, MOIL, that one is looking good. It has gains of 2.5%. There was some pricing move there. The company increased prices, and we've seen a positive reaction there. DCB Bank is up 1%. Noida Toll is up about 0.5%. But really, it's just a handful of stocks that are moving higher. So that's the latest from the broader markets, Pankaj.
Right. Rohit, what do you make of this move? A full 100 points down, back to the levels of 8,500. You think this is the bottom, or probably markets can go down further from here on?
I think you need to be a little open to both perspectives, but the fact that 8,500 has held at least 3 to 4 times gives it some level of respect, So in the very, very short term, I think till you've not really broken it, it's possible that this support ends up holding out and gives you that one more push towards 8700 or higher again. So I think you need to watch it closely. You'd get negative only if this level breaks, but if it does not, then it would look more like a knee-jerk reaction by the evening.
Right. And what is the level where you would want to buy, or this is the level to buy?
Well, we would want to see intraday that this level holds, and then it would be a good buying level. If you're able to, think of it, 8500 is just 30 points. In that sense, the risk is very, very small if you're really trading this market. And once it breaks that, then you'd probably have to change sides. So that's something you would have to be comfortable with. But in terms of pure risk reward, to be a short-term buyer, this is probably a good level right now.
Right. Sajeev, at what level of Nifty would you be tempted to buy? Still, we are not in a very, very attractive zone.
Well, we don't look at the Nifty from the perspective of levels. We just look at the trend. The trend, obviously, at the moment is on the downside. You'll see some stop losses getting triggered. The question is, do you short at the current levels after a gap down opening? If you're following some systems or levels, probably you might. So from that perspective, we wouldn't initiate a fresh short. If the market slipped maybe another 100, 200 points, we would then probably look at more individual stocks, which would have corrected quite substantially. And some of the stocks I mentioned, we would just look to accumulate those stocks again. As I said, you are going to see a lot of uncertainty and volatility ahead of the US elections. You've got the outcome of the US Fed meet. They're not likely to increase rates now, but they are certainly more likely to do that in December. You've got the fact that the results are there, and you've got no fund flows from the FIs at the moment. So there's no real major negatives apart from the worry and the uncertainty in the markets. And when you have that sort of lack of momentum, it does make it very difficult for the bulls to take the markets upwards. But if I was to go aggressively and buy the markets, that would be at a level of 82, 8300 on the Nifty. But that doesn't mean buying the Nifty. That would just be going out and buying certain large caps and mid cap stocks, which we've already discussed.
Right. Manas, do you have any view on a few mid-cap stocks that have performed well? Take a look at Jain Irrigation or Syntex or something like even Century Textiles. Do you think there is any opportunity to perhaps short sell any of these, or should one wait for dips to buy these stocks, because previously they've looked pretty strong? Manas, I wanted your view on Century Textiles, Syntex and Jain Irrigation. I think there is a issue with the audio. We'll try and fix that. But the question is about some of the mid-cap stocks. So I'll ask Rohit if he has any view. Rohit, any view on some of the mid-cap stocks like Syntex or Century Textiles or even Jain Irrigation?
Well, there is still some positive momentum in individual stocks versus the Nifty itself. If we just look at the performance of the broad market, it has been good. Among these stocks, I mean, Jain Irrigation is one of them that we've been long. So we do see the possibility of further upside developing there purely on the momentum that it has already built up. So you will continue to see moves in individual stock names versus the index, which has been slowly grinding lower. But it's not an easy market to really pick those from, because you've seen stocks also suddenly give up, especially on some news like results, etc. And so you have to be really careful around those dates. You usually avoid taking trades where results are coming because of a lot of unexpected reactions that take place. But apart from that, you do look for individual names, but it's not easy to do that in what is a very, very divergent market.
Mayuresh, do you have any view on the leading IT names? Take a look at Infosys. It's in 3 digits now. Wipro, just about 10 days back, everybody said it's stabilized. Now it doesn't look it'll go lower. It's made a rounding bottom. On the charts, it's looking decent. But look at where it is now. It's down 50 rupees in the last 10 days. Infosys in triple digits. Tech Mahindra had moved up, but again seeing profit taking. What does one do with the leading IT names?
No, largely, again, I think the structural story does stay with the large cap IT names. And if you look at the numbers which have come through, yes, disappointing to say the least. And what really comes out of Q3, Q4, they are traditionally weak quarters with a lot of furloughs coming through in Q3. And we've already seen postponement happening on the client side. So the discretionary spending budgets, specifically on the BFSI vertical, stroke retail, stroke manufacturing as well. I think those budgets are getting postponed, or clients are taking their own sweet time in deciding the macroeconomic situation, both in terms of how economies are faring, not just in America, but Europe as well, with expectations of how Brexit will pan out. So with that amount of uncertainty, my own sense is that the kind of outlook that large cap IT companies, or generally IT sector as a whole, has probably eked out, I think that is itself creating a lot of headwinds. Secondly, I think even if you look at the kind of utilization levels across IT benches, they still need to improve significantly. So I think that again is creating some amount of an overhang. And third, one is not really sure of the currency movement over the next few weeks in terms of the uncertainty hanging around. So structurally, I think the story looks positive. I think the kind of changes that the managements are making towards digital in terms of cloud computing across their various business verticals is a step in the right direction. But my own sense is that these stocks will underperform from a near-term or a medium-term perspective. So I think there will be better entry points for long-term investors. So structurally, I think we remain positive on the IT sector from a long term.
Manas is back with us. Manas, let's start with some names. Any view on Moil, manganese ore? Irrespective of the market, the stock has done well after the price hike. I think it's up 6% right now.
See, Moil, we have already witnessed almost, I think, 100 to 120 rupees rally in last 3 weeks in Moil. So if you're long, then definitely you can hold it. Time to time, you have to revise your stop loss. Now you can revise the stop loss to 365. If you're talking about technical target, then I think the target comes near to 400 to 405. But I think at current levels, one should not take fresh long. But if you're long, then definitely you can hold it, but keep the stop loss below 365.
Right. As we are speaking, M&M has just declared these are only the auto numbers. Tractor numbers are yet awaited. 52,000 is what they have done, and they were expected to do around 47,000. But I don't think that the street would react before the tractor numbers are out. That is the main focus area. That's the main growth area that one would say. So we'll wait and watch for that. But as of now, the auto numbers are out. They are at about 52,008 units. It's up about 1% or so. Decent, one would say. Not particularly a bad performance considering what was expected. Rohit, any view on the auto pack? Let's start with Maruti. What's your view over there? Numbers yesterday were not that great. However, the stock did held up.
Well, there was a lot of weakness in auto stocks if you take the last 1 month into account. You've probably seen Maruti do a little better, but the auto sector as a whole did pretty badly. So it's one of the weaker sectors recently. So we're being a little careful about what is happening there, not really taking any trades within that segment.
Right. Saji, what do you make of the auto numbers that came out? You think in a festive season also the growth is not that high and valuations are very high, so just stay away?
Well, I think there's been a very sharp run-up in most of the stocks over the last several months. They've given people and investors very good profits. Looking at stocks like TVS Motors, that's had a very good run-up. Even Bajaj and Hero, up till a couple of months ago, had performed very well. So there has been some profit taking, and there will be concerns that can they continue to deliver on the numbers and the growth that they've shown over the last several months. So it's certainly a sector which might go a bit quiet over the next few weeks, but again, it's a sector which we do like. We feel that again it is a proxy to the growth of the country. Valuations are reasonable. They may look a bit stretched based on the fact that the stocks have moved up and the results have not maybe outperformed so much, but I think going forward with the implementation of GST as well, and hopefully next year, that the sector will look up again. And if interest rates continue to come down, that's obviously another positive for the sector. So certainly a sector one could look to accumulate on declines more from an investor's perspective rather than from a trading perspective at the moment.
Right. As we are speaking, M&M tractor sales are also out 45,000 in the month of October. That's a growth of 60%. What do you make of that, Sajeev? 60% growth in tractor sales. It's a very, very high margin business. You think tractors are seeing good buying, and suddenly we are seeing even M&M come into green?
Well, on the base of those numbers, that's a very good set of numbers. The stock actually has underperformed quite substantially over the last few weeks. Again, it's drifted lower. It's been around this 1300 to 1330 levels. It doesn't seem to break out. Let's see now if on the back of these results there's some short covering or some buying does come in. But again, unless the sector as a whole and the markets feel that the whole sector can continue to with this sort of outperformance, the stocks might see some selling pressure in the short term at higher levels. So on the face of it, it's certainly a very good set of numbers. And it will give confidence that on any significant decline in the stock prices, one can go back in and buy the stocks, backed by pretty decent fundamentals and results.
Do you think this should be something which should be positive for a company like Escorts as well? 60% growth in tractors means that the industry has done well, not only M&M.
Well, yes, but Escorts again has had a fantastic run-up in the stock price over the last several months. It looks very strong. It's a stock that on any decline, when you see the markets weak like days like today, it might slip a few percentage points, but it bounces back very fast. So Escorts is certainly a good stock for the traders and those with a bit of a higher risk. The fundamentals also may be making the stock price look a little bit stretched, but certainly there's a lot of positive and strong momentum in Escorts at the moment.
Right. Mayuresh, any view on M&M? It's a name which has not done well, and that's why probably any positive news would be cheered by the market.
It would be, Pankaj, and again, I think if you look at the large expectations, tractor sales generally for this quarter are expected to be low. Passenger sales will do well, so I think it's going to be an adverse product mix, and with increase in input cost inflation, with commodity prices going up, you're not expecting a great deal to move on the EBITDA margin front as well. Having said that, probably I think with the kind of rains that we've seen and the kind of harvest that is expected to come through, and again the expectations for the Rabi crop being extremely high, I think the numbers specifically that you mentioned on the tractor side is going to be taken very, very positively by the street. The stock has come down from its recent highs. So again, I think one really needs to wait for results to come through, but prima facie, as we've seen these numbers, I think it should be sentimentally positive for M&M.
Right. Rohit, how are PSU banks looking? They would be declaring their numbers shortly. SBI next week, some of the mid-cap ones this week.
Well, they've been holding up pretty well despite signs that they could weaken. They've actually not broken key supports, but at the same time, close to any particular results, we usually would not take any trades because you get these very, very extreme moves, 5-10% moves in either direction based on what the numbers end up being. And so very close to results, we would usually not trade PSU banks, and most of them have been declaring results over the last week, and like you said, over the next couple of days, a few more key names coming out. So it's probably a segment to avoid. Let that news sink in, and then we would actually take a view from there.
All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on NDTV Profit, giving us your views on the markets. Let's take your disclosures. Rohit, in disclosures?
No, only Jain Irrigation. I think we have positions there as the only stock that we discussed.
Right. Manas, we've discussed stocks with you as well. Any disclosures?
See, no personal holding in these stocks, but we have recommended some stocks to our clients.
Mayuresh, your disclosures?
No personal holdings in any of the stocks or sectors discussed, but we may be holding stocks on behalf of the clients.
And Sajeev, disclosures from you?
It's safe to assume that any stocks that we've recommended on the long side, I myself and certainly clients would have positions in.
And thank you so much for speaking with us on NDTV Profit. A pleasure having you on the show. We'll slip into a break at this point in time. When we come back, we will track the markets and see how they're performing, plus get you more conversations with experts. Stay with us.